I mean, it's just you don't know when that moment's going to be. Now you look back. I mean, I took some great shots at Tom Petty. I took some great shots at Charles Bradley, and you reflect on those and think, wow, how fortunate was I to be, at that place at that time to have that experience to catch them in their element.
On the same day.
The same day, in sunny Pasadena, it was just kind of a thing. Recently, I've shot Lucas Nelson, Willie Nelson's son, Promise of the Reel, Lucas Nelson, Promise of the Reel, and ironically, I shot him twice, photographed him twice, once at the Winthrop Blues Festival and once at the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival in San Francisco. And Lucas does. He's a country rocker kind of guy, but he's very excitable on stage, and there are moments on stage when he jumps.
Yeah.
And so catching those shots when he jumps.
In midair.
And so, in fact, one of them, the one from Winthrop, actually, I've been nominated for a Washington Blues Society award that's cool. Coming up. And so that's a surprise, and even more of a surprise is when I shared that and posted it on Facebook to have Lucas Nelson respond and say, congratulations, good luck. So you get that kind of thing that's kind of like, wow, that's kind of cool.
When you get someone that's that status there to acknowledge your work. Just
a little attaboy, it's always very encouraging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there any artist out there that is kind of your golden goose? You're still chasing the perfect shot?
Not so much. I mean, I shoot for a couple publications. One is Northwest Music Scene, and one is No Depression. Northwest Music Scene focuses on artists that are in the region. It could be Seattle, Portland, Boise. The whole region. And so it tends to be somewhat locally based, which is great because it's the up-and-coming artists.
Yeah.
And that's always exciting. I just got back from a festival called Treefort Music Fest. It's in its 7th year, and I've been fortunate enough to cover it for 6 years. And you go and you see artists that really surprise you, that you don't know anything about. And that festival has over 460 artists that play over 5 days.
Oh, wow.
In downtown Boise across 30 venues. It's really quite a special festival. And again, you see people you don't expect are going to... Like I saw a band that I really knew nothing about. They're called Twin Peaks. I'm not even sure where they're from. And they just were amazing. They the whole sound, their whole look, their whole energy... It was really something else. Another band that I knew nothing about, new band, they're out of Brooklyn, New York, called The Muckers. It's like, and these guys were kind of this throwback rock glam thing.
Okay.
And but hard rockers, and it was great. I mean, the guy with his Fender guitar and the guy with his Rickenbacker bass, and it's just. They had the
holding that classic look.
Yeah, they had that classic look. He had yellow nylon bell bottoms. So it was great. It was a lot of fun. So it's those kind of, and then a couple artists that I knew nothing about out of Portland. One band called Death List, and another young lady by the name of Kelly Schaefer, and they were back to back at this one venue and. Different styles, and both of them were riveting in their own way. I mean, Death List was very kind of new wavy surf guitar rock all together.
Okay.
And Kelly Schaefer was a big sound from the band, but she was very fluid in her motions, and you can hear the power in her voice and the angst in her lyrics and it just, and the next thing you know, she's on the floor singing. And so it's just, you see somebody like that and you see that passion, you see that energy. It's those are the things that I really think are neat.
Yeah.
And then as far as, again, I'm very fortunate with the 2 publications that I work with, that I'm able to pick the shows and the artists that I want to cover.
Gotcha.
Which is very nice. And I get contacted by PR companies that want me to, go out and see their artists that are coming through town. So that gives me an opportunity to see things that I don't know anything about, but certainly, something that I'll have an interest in and just, participate in that process of doing things.
In the early days and before you kind of had the credentials to get back there, was there a lot of sneaking backstage stuff?
Not a little here, a little there. I mean, it's just, when you're around certain, it's more about knowing people at the venues than it was so much of the artist.
Keeping the network going?
Yeah, so it's just the network. And again, the photography early on was more hobbyist, and it was the radio stuff that got me connected.
Yeah.
So I was connected with a bunch of different people because of my radio gig and the promotion process of what that was all about. So that was kind of cool. I mean, in my radio days, I was big into King Crimson related stuff, and which is progressive rock. And I was fortunate to, one time I was in Nashville, and Adrian Belew, who was the guitarist at the time, one of the guitarists in King Crimson, I was able to go to his house and interview him in his home studio, and so that was pretty neat. And so, and I got to meet members of the band and got to know them a little bit. So, those type of things happen, through the course of doing things. We've been, bouncing around with this stuff for a while. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Do you prefer indoor or outdoor shoots?
There's really no preference. I mean,
Gotcha.
It's just I prefer having a pit, versus jostling into the front with no pit. But it just depends on the show and the artist and stuff. So, the biggest challenge in photography now is there are a lot of photographers that are shooting shows. Lighting is always it's always about the lighting. What kind of good lighting you have. With rock shows and stuff, they like to use their reds, blues, and purples. And it's tough. It's challenging in the digital world because you're having to adjust with the changing lights and so forth, and the action of the artist movement. So it's you got to work with the conditions, and you have to work with the artistry of the artist, and so it's a fluid thing.
Yeah. Have you ever done like a followed someone on a tour, like see them at 3 different venues and kind of get familiar with the show so you know what to expect?
Not so much. I mean, I see the same artists over and over again because of I like the artist, and and so I know what to expect. Like, for example, that Lucas Nelson experience. I mean, I saw him at Winthrop for the first time and didn't know what to expect. Expect and caught some things, but then when I saw him in San Francisco, Winthrop was in late July, and
great festival. I love that.
And Harley Strictly was in October. Okay. So I knew what was coming. I knew at some point this was going to come, and I knew I needed to be in the right spot at the right time to catch the right angle of things. And again, the conditions change because of the positioning of the stage and other photographers that you're working in the pit with and that kind of thing. But I mean, the shots I got at Winthrop were great, and the shots at Harley Strictly were great because so you get to that point where you know who's going to do what, where, and at what point, and what angles they look good at, and that kind of stuff. So
you mentioned a little bit about the saturation of the market, and is there particular festivals that are you've decided you kind of don't want to even visit anymore? It's been too saturated, or is there an issue with that?
Well, well, for example, I went to Coachella a couple times, but not as a photographer. I went as a fan. I took a point and shoot and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And after doing Coachella twice, it's a great festival for what it is, but it's a lot of people and it's a lot of stuff, and it's just it's you get to a point where you hit a wall. Kind of sense.
Good to be there as a fan, not necessarily working.
Well, again, I haven't had the opportunity to work it. I mean, to work it might be a different scenario.
Gotcha.
But it's still, it's still in, the Palm Springs, Indio area where it could be 100 degrees outside, and even though it's in April, typically it's nice. It's a lot of people.
Yes.
But I do festivals again. Like this thing with Tree Fort. Tree Fort's one of the best festivals in the country. For 460 bands to be in downtown Boise for 5 days along 30 venues, you can walk the streets. The crowds aren't over the top. I mean, it's a full festival. Yeah. I mean, if you want to see something, you got to get to the venue early and get to to be in the right spot to shoot and that kind of stuff. But the diversity is great. The energy is great. They have a lot of activities. It's family oriented. So it's really cool. It's very unique in that way versus, going to other big festivals where it's just mayhem.
Yeah.
Which it could be mayhem.
Yeah.
I tend to, I like going to the Gorge, but I like going to the Gorge as a fan.
Yeah.
More so. Just because, but I don't go often enough. There's not enough, it's got to be somebody who I really want to see out there.
Yeah.
But it's the drive out and the drive back, and it's the, whether you're camping or lodging or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a process to that whole thing. It's not to say that's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just I'm at a stage in my career and my age that, that I want some.
That's an investment.
It's an investment.
Yeah.
And so I try to stay local, or along the I-5 corridor, and have things in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
To make it feasible. So
how hard was it to pick which photos to put on the wall?
Well, part of the work that's here is from a previous show that I had. So I already had these items printed.
Gotcha.
A couple years ago, I had a show at the Triple Door down in Seattle. So these were some of the photos left over from that exhibit.
Gotcha.
And so it was easy to pick them because at the time, they were the photos that I really, again, you wanted to have something that stood out and popped. The print process that I did some metallic and some in a duotone. So there's some pictures that have a flat finish and some that have some real pop to them.
Yeah.
So part of that process was identifying which shots you wanted in which format.
Yeah. What's the right medium?
What's the right medium and the right pizzazz.
Awesome.
to have that, to have it show.
What's the show you're looking forward to? What's coming up that you're jazzed
Well,
about?
tickets went on sale today for the Mavericks and Los Lobos
Yeah.
at Chateau Ste. Michelle, and I've been fortunate to get to know both bands.
Yeah.
And the fact that the last time they did this, where I've been able to go to see them, was in Atlanta, and my wife and I flew from Seattle to Atlanta to do the weekend of them doing a joint bill together.
Oh, cool.
In Atlanta. So it's going to be a great show. It's going to be, everybody's going to be out of their seats from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward. That's not until the summer.
Yeah.
But it's on my calendar, and so it's one it's one I'm looking forward to.
Awesome.
And then I've already put in for some other festivals and stuff, and so I'm hoping I can go to Arroyo Seco again down in Pasadena this year. They're going to have Neil Young as a headliner on one day and Robert Plant the next day, and it's a great lineup. So
Yeah.
so if I could do that, and again I'll do the local festivals here. I'm part of the process is to cover these festivals. You have to be affiliated with a publication, and you have to submit to the media people for credentials, and
Yeah.
it's a process. And depending on the audience of a festival or any of that kind of stuff, you'll find out. And sometimes you don't, like Arroyo Seco, I'm not going to find out until maybe 2 weeks before the festival.
Gotcha.
That I'm in or I'm not in. So, and that's okay. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
But it's exciting to have the opportunity to do it and go out there and shoot, and I'm enjoying myself, and I'm very fortunate that my wife, is understanding of my passion, because I'm gone a lot doing it. And so I'm having a great time, rocking and rolling.
What's your average time away from home when you're going to a festival? Is it just based on the festival?
It's just based on the festival. Most festivals are 3 days.
Yeah.
So if I'm I may go to the Portland Waterfront Blues Festival this year. They have the Mavericks are playing there, and it's a great lineup, and it's a great cause. They raise money for the Oregon Food Bank.
Gotcha.
And so forth. They've done that in the past, and it's been going for 30 years. So it's always 4th of July weekend, and that's always a cool thing. So sometimes I do some of these things, sometimes I don't. So it's just a matter of making the time. And
does she ever tag along?
She tags along to the local shows.
Gotcha.
So she'll go to the shows with me at Edmonds Center for the Arts, and she'll go to me at shows at Ben Royal Hall. She how does she say? I'm excessive.
Yeah.
That's the word my wife uses